Shane's fearless. I'm not sure Shane has any fear. I don't know if he fears anything.
You know, the WWE defines my father.
Right.
And I wasn't going to allow a deteriorating business relationship to affect our personal lives.
We're just a super tight family that no one is ever going to understand because they don't live with us. They don't understand it. They don't get it. You know, to do what we do and work so closely, I mean, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Vince McMahon's relationship with his son, Shane McMahon, has been questionable over the past few years, especially since Stephanie McMahon seemingly began to inherit Vince's role in the WWE. However, in light of the recent allegations against Vince McMahon, the industry has completely distanced itself from him, and the fact that he sold all of his TKO stock means that he has no ties to the company anymore whatsoever that he helped build into the global powerhouse that it is today.
You may have heard about the shocking sex abuse lawsuit being leveled at WWE boss Vince McMahon by a former employee.
The sex abuse allegations facing Vince McMahon and the WWE, they are filthy, explicit,
toxic, abusive, widespread, pervasive.
During their time together in WWE, Shane and Vince have often been involved with numerous on-screen storylines where Shane often took on his father, like when he bought WCW and was at the forefront of the invasion angle, which saw many former WCW names walk into the WWE as militia. Years later, Shane also clashed with his father on-screen when he returned to the promotion after a lengthy absence.
Shane is one of those guys that's really great at creating like that holy shit moment.
While neither man has confirmed just how bad their relationship has been over the years, many veterans have claimed that there definitely is some real-life heat between the father and son. Despite this, however, Shane has tried to distance himself from Vince by striking out on his own and starting his own business ventures. Now, with that in mind, let's take a look back at the history of their relationship. While his relationship with Vince McMahon deteriorated over the years, things were not always as bad as they seem to be today. Shane McMahon has always worked closely with WWE stars, and after his 1998 debut, he took an interest in wrestling in ways that Vince might not have anticipated or hoped for.
You know, growing up in this business, it's just been an unbelievable ride. You know, I went to my first match at 2 years old. My dad brought me there, and then ever since that time, you know, I've just been in total love with it.
Now, Shane McMahon has had some pretty amazing moments in the ring, with his 2001 King of the Ring match against Kurt Angle being one of the most memorable.
The only time I got nervous is when I tried to throw him through the glass and it didn't break. And you know, I knew Vince was going to be really pissed off. It was his son. And the thing was, I was telling Shane, when it didn't break, I said, let's move on. Let's just go to the next spot. He's like, no, throw me through the fucking glass. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Shane's going to want to go through regardless. No matter how many times we do it, he's going to want to go through.
Shane ultimately wanted to run his own promotion and allegedly expressed interest in purchasing and managing ECW independently. However, as we all know, this never happened, as Vince rejected the idea and bought the promotion's library for a very low price. WWE would eventually revive ECW in 2006, and Vince ultimately redesigned the ECW titles, and the once prestigious promotion became a brand.
At the end of 2005, it was Shane McMahon that came to me. And Shane had the concept of an online-only presentation, which was pretty forward-thinking now that you think about it, because that's what streaming is. As this evolved, there had become interest from networks to actually carry this product, which of course took it out of Shane's hands and placed it on Vince's desk. And once Vince understood that there was a serious profit to be made, it was completely taken out of Shane's hands. And Vince wanted to maximize this new third brand of WWE's as much as he could. And in order to maximize that concept, it had to stop being the authentic ECW and had to become a third brand under the umbrella of World Wrestling Entertainment.
Now, it's unclear how Shane took Vince's handling of ECW, but by 2009, he had resigned from the WWE to pursue his own endeavors. The two men have never openly spoken in much detail about the situation, but this move likely worsened things between Vince and Shane and fostered a sense of disappointment. However, it seemed like Shane was no longer interested in the WWE, and by 2010, he launched his very own company, You On Demand, which is focused on streaming and bringing US-based movies and television shows into the Chinese market.
As you see, China is embarking on allowing a lot of, especially foreign content, U.S. Hollywood content, to come into play, and they need distribution outlets to get that done, and that's where You On Demand, being the first national cable and pay-per-view and video on demand service in China, that's where we're going to come to distribute that content.
Shane later became involved with Ideanomics and eventually served as the company's vice chairman. And in 2021, he was announced as the executive vice president of the company, which has seemingly become his focus since.
Again, Ideanomics, we're a fully integrated company in the EV space. One of the biggest announcements we just did is with VIA Motors.
Now, the UFC is currently the biggest MMA promotion in the world, and since last year, it has merged with WWE under the umbrella of TKO Holdings. Now, naturally, the two products differ significantly, but due to the overlap, Shane McMahon allegedly saw some value in the promotion back in the day.
And we bought it for $2 million because nobody saw the potential in it. Vince McMahon, his son wanted to buy the UFC, and his father wouldn't do it. He's like, fuck that, that's, you know. And if you were Vince and you saw any potential in it whatsoever, you buy it just to take it out. So it can't become fucking something bigger.
The rumor has always claimed that Shane made multiple pitches to Vince about buying the promotion. And at the time, UFC was nowhere near the size it is today, which lends credibility to Shane's eye for business.
The world should have Shane McMahon enter UFC because he is a real badass, and he would fare well in UFC.
Shane is like that rabid pit bull that will fight until the death. Like, even if like we're backstage and just kidding around and horseplaying and wrestling in the back, he has to win every single contest. You are not gonna keep him down. You're gonna have to kill him to beat him.
A few years ago, Vince McMahon was generally active on social media and would often post or repost things related to the WWE. Naturally, as the face of the promotion, McMahon would often wish major names a happy birthday and take some time to express how important they were to him and the WWE. The meme began when fans noticed the stark difference between the birthday wishes Vince shared for his son compared to those of Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and even John Cena. Regarding Stephanie, Vince not only called her incomparable, but declared that he was a lucky dad. And in comparison, Vince called Triple H a leader and made a fond callback to one of his wrestling monikers, the Cerebral Assassin. Cena's birthday wish was the most impressive, as Vince compared him to baseball legend Babe Ruth and claimed he couldn't describe how important the veteran was to him and the WWE. Sadly, all Shane McMahon got was a happy birthday. Now, it could be argued that McMahon likely had someone running his social media accounts for him instead of making the post himself. However, if this was the case, he likely signed off on all the previous messages and simply had nothing to say for Shane. While this has been a meme since fans figured it out, it could always have been an indication that Vince hasn't been close to Shane in the years since he left the WWE. In a WWE-sponsored interview with Mick Foley shortly after his return in 2016, he explained why he left the promotion in the first place.
I think with any parent and sibling, or I should say parent and child relationship, it's tough, especially with the older guard, allowing the new guard to flesh those ideas out and try them and go for it because they're so guarded against it. It stopped being a collaboration and it stopped being fun. And when that happened, the WWE defines my father.
Right.
And I wasn't going to allow a deteriorating business relationship to affect our personal lives. And that's exactly what was happening. And so I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I love him too much. And I decided to leave.
At the very least, it seemed like Vince and Shane clearly tried to repair their relationship. Unfortunately, things ultimately went sour after that. After a lengthy absence, Shane McMahon made his on-screen return during 2022's WWE Royal Rumble, which not only allegedly led to some backstage heat due to claims that he forced his way in, but the moment has since also been ridiculed online as well. Now, shockingly enough, Shane McMahon's Royal Rumble situation reportedly led to his WWE release, and plans for the subsequent Raw Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania were scrapped. In the months following Shane McMahon's release from the WWE, multiple reports slowly came out and began to paint a picture of exactly what happened between him and Vince McMahon. However, those from the camp closer to Vince claimed that he was justified in releasing his son from the company. Now, according to sources, while the exchange became heated on both ends, it was claimed that Shane was being unprofessional. And additionally, WWE's decision to part ways with Shane in a professional capacity came from Vince McMahon himself, who went on to say that his son will not get another chance in the WWE again.
I've always said Shane's my favorite McMahon. He's a nice guy, but I can also see where he can come off to some people as a dick because he is a McMahon, and when he has ideas, he is sure of them and he's sure they're great. And that can lead to rubbing people the wrong way.
Vince McMahon's favoritism of Brock Lesnar has long since been evident based on his many accolades since returning to the WWE in 2012, most notably being the man who ended The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. And another backstage report on the Royal Rumble fallout between Vince and Shane notably claimed that another reason things might have become heated was because Brock Lesnar was involved. Shane reportedly walked into the Royal Rumble without knowing which angles were currently in play in the WWE. He would then use his status to force the other producers for the match to do things his way, with multiple sources describing the situation as being chaotic. Shane apparently also overrode Vince's plans for the event, creating interactions between him and a number of other wrestlers. However, interestingly enough, the only one he was willing to put over was Brock Lesnar, who ultimately won the match. The report also continued to say that Shane forced his way into that year's Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania 38, and even had issues with the plans for Raw the following night. Vince ultimately vetoed Shane's plans after Lesnar began to push for things and was allowed to do a lot of the things he wanted to do while Shane was not. And it was also claimed that Vince had allegedly been bringing Shane in to help with the creative on the Rumble as a father's favor, but sources claim that the younger McMahon's ideas were often laughed at behind his back.
There's less patience, from him on that. And at the end of the day, when he said enough's enough, it was enough.
Right.
Now, of course, I'd have to push it one more time just to make sure he heard, And that's usually when he blow his stack or whatever, and that goes back to father-son stuff. But, it's always been, at the end of the day, a respect factor, because not only is, it's tough working in a family business. Not only is he your dad, but then he's your boss. And that's like, okay, I said no. Or if he said, we're going to paint the room blue, it's blue. I go, yeah, but this green is really nice. People will like, okay, but it's blue.
Shane's sister, Stephanie McMahon, was involved in WWE for much longer than her brother and even became an integral part of on-screen storylines. However, in January 2023, Stephanie resigned from her position as WWE chairwoman and co-CEO, a role she took after being the chief brand officer for nearly 10 years.
It used to bother me that when I was growing up, people would either really, really like me because I was Vince McMahon's daughter, or really not like me because I was Vince McMahon's daughter. And it bothered me that I was not judged for me. If people didn't like me, that's okay, but don't not like me because of my dad.
Right.
And it really bothered me. And my dad told me, he said, Steph, look, not everybody's gonna like you. It's just the way the world works. But as long as you can look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and know that you're a good person, that's all that matters.
And while she never went to the lengths that Shane McMahon went to in the squared circle, Stephanie competed in several matches in the late 90s and early 2000s, and ultimately had her final match at WrestleMania 34. Additionally, she also notably reigned as the WWE Women's Champion on one occasion. And according to Jim Ross, Shane never had a chance to inherit the WWE throne from his father.
But the bottom line is that, Vince told me one time that, the girl, speaking of Stephanie, the girl's is more like me than the boy. And I don't know how we got the conversation, but Vince always saw Stephanie had that eye of the tiger, very aggressive, sometimes hyper aggressive in the eyes of some, I'm sure. But that's what he wanted. He wanted controversy. He wanted strong leadership. He wanted impactful players in that role to be, and he thought that Stephanie had more of Vince's personality than did Shane. And Shane was more like Linda.
Now, it seems as if Shane has always had a good relationship with Stephanie. However, there was a point of concern when she started dating Triple H, Paul Levesque, because Shane felt it was being kept from him.
At first, it was, as long as they're going to be happy, that's all I really cared about. It was more old school back in the day that, especially the boss's daughter, you don't ever date a talent at that point because there was separation. At that time, it was church and state, or office and the boys, if you will. So there's a lot of old school stuff in there. The thing that didn't sit well with me is it was kept from me for a while. So that didn't feel good. But other than that, as long as my sister's happy, then that's great. As long as they're happy, I'm happy for them both.
Shane McMahon is the father of 3 boys who have even accompanied him to the ring occasionally. And his eldest son, Declan McMahon, is currently the best known of the boys due to his uncanny resemblance to his grandfather, Vince McMahon. And despite the severity of the allegations against Vince, Shane has yet to break his silence on the matter. And his first post in the wake of all the drama was notably about fatherhood. And if all the claims over the years are to be believed, then it might just have been Shane's way of showing his own father what it means to be a good role model. It's obviously up for speculation, but one of the reasons for Shane's fallout with Vince recently could be that he knew about the allegations against Vince McMahon.
Shane knew about it. And Endeavor has said, and I don't know if this applies to them or even Triple H, but if anybody had knowledge of what was going on, there's not a place for him at TKO.
As a proud father, Shane regularly posts with his family, which has painted him in a starkly different light to that of his own father, Vince McMahon. And while this is likely not a dig at Vince, it could just be Shane's way of further distancing himself from his father while enjoying the time spent with his sons.
Vince expected Shane to be Vince, and Shane's not Vince. Like, bro, I'll be honest with you. Let me put it to you this way. Shane's a family man. Shane loves his wife and loves his kids. And I bet you, bro, the reason Shane is that way is because he didn't get that as a child. So Shane was like, I'm not going to repeat the mistakes of my father. My family's going to be first. Bro, the fact that Shane's family is first over the WWE, Vince frowns upon that, bro, where those are his grandchildren. But those grandchildren should still be on the back burner. So things like that, bro, Shane would never live up to his dad's expectations, ever.
Now, from a personal standpoint, and after watching a bunch of interviews featuring Shane McMahon, as well as what other superstars have said about him, he seems like a really genuine guy. And the fact that he's done some pretty extreme things in a wrestling ring, which obviously he didn't have to do because he's the son of a billionaire, kind of just adds to that.
And Shane's pretty athletic too. So, we had some good spots in there. People certainly popped when he came off the Titantron. That crazy bastard took it backwards.
Yeah.
I came down a little ways, shimmied down, then jumped. The worst thing is you're so sweaty up there and there's nothing below you. You got to jump out. So you're worried about slipping off and falling down. But that was a pretty good drop.
And Shane had a lot to prove. And I know Shane is, Shane, he'll go through anything. He'll do anything. I mean, tough guy, man.
I'll never forget when he jumped 50 feet and he did the elbow drop on Big Show. I don't know anybody that would agree to that, except for Shane McMahon. He's a brave, he's an incredible athlete. So I have a lot of respect for Shane for what he's been able to do.
As always, thanks for watching, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, welcome and please subscribe.